Sandeep ji. Thank you, Ms. Comrade Sitaram Yechury, for sparing some time and coming here. I know it's a busy schedule for him. Elections are going on in Tripura, and this will be the election commission right after this. Of course, IMPRI, I mean, that's being part of the larger family. Guests, friends, some of my family members are here. I thank you all for coming here and making this event really a good one, and of course a memorable too. Lot many young people, when they were outside, they were asking me, what is the context of this book? Why did you write this? Are you a writer? I said, no, I'm a street fighter. So I've always fought on the streets. And it's just that my party, the CPI, Sitaram was there, he was there in the election campaign for the first time. There was a direct election to the deputy mayor of Simla. And that was my first stint with the urban world. Kind of, the way urbanization is unfolding, the way cities are changing. That's why it's cities in transition. In fact, we all are in transition. So those 5 years, my first knowledge, and some of my my understandings, or the kind of formulations that I had. Look, that once I get elected, so I'll be running the city. It didn't take much time for me, Sandeep, to realize that 6 months down the line, there's someone else who's playing the shots. So all that comes into this book. So that's why this is cities in transition. What cities are? Thank you so much. Jagan is here. Jagan and I, we've had so many contestations. Katie Saab, who's like a doyen of architecture in India. Thank you so much for coming. So, what is this book all about? And of course, Ma'am Geetam is there. If we have to understand transport, mobility, so she is the transport woman. You go to IIT Delhi and you easily realize the transformation and the transition that has taken place. So thank you all for being here. I mean, everyone has. I can add so many things and add-ons, but I don't think that much time I have. So the point is that these 10 years, 5 years when I was in office, and then 5 years after that when I was shifted to Delhi and I worked with Sitaram, and then in the urban department, made me realize that what these cities are actually, where we live, and what kind of changes are we witnessing, and what are the objective transitions that are taking place? What is the role of the human beings? So Jagan, I think what I would like to say is that every city has its own specificity. India is like, we have some 9,000 towns and cities, both which are the small and the large ones, and then we have the settlements. But if somebody asks me what is the general thing that is happening, maybe that can also be contested. I think there are 3 main generic things that are happening while this transition is taking place. The first thing is that the major disruption took place in the 1990s, when we shifted the whole orientation of our cities, when we thought that, look, cities are going to be the power engines, the engines of growth. Something that I don't buy at all. So, so if you have to make cities as engines of growth, then there's a major transformation that took place, and that was supposed to take place, is that you change the role of the cities. So the role of the cities shift, and that's what I've brought in all these articles. Once you read them, is the transition from city being as managed to city entrepreneurs. So you change the character. This is something that was happening in the West 20 years back. If you go to some of the international literature, but here it started taking place. Welcome, yeah. So here it started taking place in post-90s. So this transition, and therefore, how do you do that? Land was such an important element. So monetize the land, real estate. So real estate will come up. The Nehruvian model of cities was given away. So the private capital is going to come and it will ameliorate your problems in the city. Some even the basic problems. That was the idea. That's how we try to build it. That's the first generic thing. Of course, Katie is like the one, so please correct me. The second thing that happened is something, the thought that I come from, many of you may not be buying that thought, is, what we in political economy have been taught right from many people is the distinction between use value and exchange value. That's a very complex thing. It means that there's certain things which have to be a use value to the society. I mean, it can be both a use value as well as an exchange value. But take, for example, education. Take, for example, health. Take, for example, water. I mean, is water a need or a right? I mean, it's a simple question. But then when this transformation was taking place, this also, I mean, there's huge literature, particularly written by Ursula Hughes, where we have reports from the UNCTAD, where large transnational corporations shifted their portfolios from finance capital to utilities. So you're transforming the use value of a utility or an entity to an exchange value, commoditizing it. Education became a huge business, and that's why we find massive inequality taking place in the cities. That's what we've tried to illustrate, figure out. That's the second thing. I mean, just to give one small example, Kerala is a state which has very high literacy rate, but can just guess the amount that is shed for PMT coaching, which is now NEET coaching. It's more than 2,000 CR. Imagine the kind of money being drained out from the people and being handed over. So that's the second area. I mean, I can go into details into that as far as water is concerned. I mean, we are facing in Shimla, the Suez is entering, so they are trying to take over. So, the commoditizing of the use value. Of course, mobility, ma'am, Geetam, you know better than me. How, there's a push from capital-intensive technologies to capital, I mean, from, very easy solutions to capital-intensive technologies. And the third thing that has happened is, I mean, if I have to generalize it, is the whole transformation. I mean, what Charles Correa stated in the first Urban Commission, about empowering the cities. I mean, he said there should be a contest between the city mayor and the city chief minister. But we find it's completely takeover. And the K.C. Sivaramakrishnan, who was like one of my guides in urban world, he was the chair in a task force, national task force, to review the 74th constitutional amendment. We know what the 74th constitutional amendment is, where you should have transferred some 12 under 12th schedule, you should have transferred some 18 subjects, not more than 3 subjects, and Kerala is like on the top of the list, maybe 8 or 9 subjects, and something happened way back in West Bengal. Else you find 3, universally 3 or 4 subjects being transferred to the cities across the country. So KCC Ramakrishnan, when the smart cities came, Jagan, please pardon me, because Jagan was like, and of course, we'll be sharing that. And of course, he's like an elder brother to me. But, 2 minutes, yeah, 2 minutes. So, he said, Tikender, what these smart cities are like? I said, sir, please tell me. He said, it's like writing an obituary of the 74th Constitution. So you have charter cities now. You have city, completely different framework, from city managers to city entrepreneurs. Now, someone else is so very limited space, scope of people. And the fourth general thing, if I have to, just bring that, is that massive, because of the absence of land reforms, massive migration that has taken place in the cities from the countryside. And already we have 28 crore, 280 million people who have registered in e-Shram portal. Where are they? And are they even in the process of decision making? Are they even in the process of democratizing the atmosphere? They're not democratizing at all. We know how even the elections are taking place in the cities. The Delhi has still not been able to elect the mayor. You can imagine. We know the reason why, who wants to control Delhi. All this leads to the transition that we are witnessing. Can this be sustainable? And if the fifth thing, just pardon me, is the climate change and massive impact. So if this is the transition, are we leading towards a sustainable model? I argue we are not. We have to think out of the box. Maybe not, we don't go back to the Nehruvian model, but then what would be the new model? To me, if you ask, I think it has to be extremely democratic, decentralized, where you have to have a massive participation. New processes must be engaged for engaging the people. What about artificial intelligence? What about people in gig workers economy? We do not even think about how can they be brought in this whole process. That's the idea of bringing this book, and of course there'll be many more coming up. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful from the core of my heart Thank you, sir, for coming. For you, because I think post-COVID we have very less, physical presence. I mean, probably this has to come up. Thank you, Sitaram, for sparing this time. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.